Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your girl, No Mercy here. It's Tuesday night, so you already know what time it is. It's time for No Punches Pulled with No Mercy. Some of you probably already know who I am. For those of you that are new, my name is Brooke Millbrook, formerly known in the fight game as Brooke No Mercy Dierdorff. I am a retired professional boxer, held the WBC lightweight title until I retired, and was inducted into the International Women's Boxing Hall of Fame in 2022. I've been through some good, some bad, and of course, a lot of BS in the sport of women's boxing. But this is my platform where we talk the talk and walk the walk. We bring out the truth in women's boxing. We're going to talk to pioneers, past boxers, current boxers, even future boxers. But we get down and dirty speaking the truth of what takes place behind the scenes in women's boxing. You don't want to miss a single show. So please make sure you guys like, subscribe, and you share. You don't want to miss a Tuesday night here with me and all the amazing guests we have on the show. But tonight we have a very special guest in the house. It's the legend of women's boxing in the building, Christy Martin. Christy shattered barriers and blazed a path for all female fighters worldwide. Her journey is one of resilience and strength, from her grueling battles in the ring to her surviving the unthinkable battles outside the ring. She is the most successful, prominent female boxer in the world, and one who legitimized women's participation in the sport for all of us female boxers. She started her pro career at the age of 21 in 1989. She was in the fight that that was known for putting women's boxing on the sports fan radar, that took place on March 16, 1996 against Deirdre Gogarty. That fight was a war and a big bloodbath, as everybody remembers. She was the first female boxer to appear on the cover of Sports Illustrated. She also was the first woman to sign with the famous Don King. She faced the best fighters in her era. She got to fight on the undercards of Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, Felix Trinidad, Julio Cesar Chavez. She was also the first female boxer inducted into the Nevada Boxing Hall of Fame in 2016, and among the first females ever to be inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 2020, making that her sixth induction into different Hall of Fames. But please welcome the truth, the coal miner's daughter, Christy Martin, to the show.
Hey, Brooke. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you for coming. I'm so honored to finally have you on the show. I know you're super busy, so I appreciate you finding time.
Yeah, we've been trying to make it happen for a minute.
I know.
We have been. It seems like everything happens at once, right?
I know.
A lot of fights happening. A lot of domestic violence events. So
Yeah,
here we are. Right
here we are.
A week before Nashville. We're coming
Week
back
before Nashville. So yes, we'll see you again next Tuesday, in flesh. So that'll be nice. We'll be there for that one. But so starting off first, I know, take us back to like the beginning, your childhood a little bit, growing up in West Virginia. I know you've spoken about things that you had to go through as a very young child that you shouldn't have to go through. Can you take us back and kind of just start us from the beginning?
Hey, I am truly a coal miner's daughter from a very small town in southern West Virginia. Grew up just playing sports, and I have all boy cousins. So I was out there, playing football and basketball, baseball, whatever they were doing. I'm the oldest, but still was kind of like involved with whatever the boys were doing, and just competitive. And my dad was an athlete, so I just learned growing up to be the best that you can be, and you have to work hard. Work hard to make anything happen.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I know. Yeah, I grew up with two older brothers. And obviously I was the youngest, but I was the only girl. So my mom didn't get the little girl that wore the bows and the dresses and all that. She had I was a little tomboy then because I had brothers. I did whatever they did. I just wanted to play with them. So yeah, but yeah, sports. That's really all it was. You briefly spoke about, when you were younger, some things that you went through when you were 6, with a family member of yours. You don't have to like go too deeply into it, but I know that it helps. Some other fighters have talked about stuff like that, and people have reached out how that stories has helped them deal and cope with things. Can you kind of touch a little bit on some stuff that you had to go through at that age?
Yeah, it's just crazy. Like a cousin that was from North Carolina, I'm living in West Virginia, came to spend a few days at my house, and just sexually abused me. And at that time, from that time until like 4 days before the trial with Jim Martin, I didn't tell it. I never told my parents. But I know that Jim Martin was kind of crazy, and I was afraid he might say something in the trial. So that's when I told my mom and dad. Um, I just kept it in. There were very few close people that knew, um, Jim Martin being one of them. But it's just hard to imagine, when you
Yeah.
see a 6-year-old person uh, walking around or playing, that somebody would sexually molest this child, or a
Yeah.
child, or somebody at that age.
Yeah. And what's really sad to me is I would say almost half of the people I've interviewed have had that happen.
Yeah, it's
And
the
that's
same
what's
as
really
with
sad.
domestic violence.
Yeah.
People just don't think. I don't know if they just don't think it happens, or they don't think it happens to anyone they know,
Yeah.
or it,
Or they just don't want to think about it. So they kind of just, kind of like sweep it under the rug like it's not real.
right,
Yeah.
right. Like,
Um,
this would never happen to my child, or this would never happen in my family, but it does.
Yeah, absolutely. It does. And it's just so sad listening to the girls' stories. There's several of them that have had that happen. And it's really unthinkable to me that someone could even think to do that, let alone process it. I don't know. But it does help a lot of people hearing people that have gotten through it. So, I appreciate you kind of speaking on it a little bit. But after that, doing the sports and all that in high school and everything, what actually led you to the sport of boxing?
Just kind of crazy because I was always an athlete. I've always played basketball, baseball, whatever. And for whatever reason, I thought entering the tough man contest was a good idea. I'm in college, and I'm thinking, it's just something I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I have no explanation of why I wanted to do it. But I had told the promoter a couple times, "Come on, you should have women. You should have women." And of course, they didn't.
Yeah.
This one year, I walked by the store, and there's a poster. First year, women added to the tough man contest, and I'm right inside just to sign up and ready to go. Um, Again, I really have no explanation of why I thought this was a great idea, but I loved it. I didn't know I was gonna love it, but when I entered into the tournament and was fortunate enough, the first couple of fights were tough. The first fight was tough. No knockouts, no nothing. It was really kind of close, and I was able to win. The next night, I knocked somebody out, and like a big girl. She was big. She was like 5'7", 5'8",
Yeah.
and big, strong. And oh my god, like that just hooked me. There
Yeah.
was nothing better than this feeling. I mean, there's no better drug. There's no better anything
No.
than that great feeling of a knockout.
Yeah.
And it just hooked me.
Yeah.
Couldn't wait for it to come back. Couldn't wait for the next year so I could do it again.
Right. And that's funny. It's because I started kind of similar because I was in the Army right after high school, but there was a bar that I worked at like part-time, but they had fight nights there. Not really like fight nights, but like they had a ring like once a week, and literally anybody in the bar could sign a waiver and fight anybody in the bar. So
Right.
it really was ridiculous if you think about it. But after like watching several of them, I'm like, well, I could do that.
Right.
And so I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. And you're like, no. And so that's how I started. Is I started doing the fights at the bar. I just signed a waiver and fight whoever in there wanted to fight. And so that's how I started. And then I started training after, but not necessarily the tough man contest, but something similar. I was just like, I could do that. That looks fun. I'll fight that girl over there.
Right.
But-
Right. I mean, it's crazy, but and it really is the same thing. A tough man contest is just people off the street.
Yeah.
You just go in there and see who they who's the toughest. And,
Who it is. Yeah.
Yeah. I had never been in a boxing gym. I had never. I had, of course, watched boxing on TV, but yeah, never been in a gym. Never thought about boxing was like going to be my career, my life, and
Right.
and like never in my wildest dreams.
Yeah. That's awesome though. I love that. Well, what was your first experience walking into a boxing gym like? I'm very sure you were the only female in the gym at that time. What was that experience like walking in a gym back then?
Yeah, so my actually the first boxing gym. I'm trying to think so I tell the truth. The first boxing gym I was in was in Bristol, Tennessee. When I went in, and the promoter had called me and asked me to come down. He wanted me to move down there and be trained. He had this trainer that was excited about training me. And by this time, I've already had like 6 or 7 pro fights. Still, never been in a boxing gym. Now, tell me how crazy that is. Um, so it was Jim Martin was the trainer, and walked in the gym, and yeah, he definitely didn't want me to be in there. And then everybody, it's all guys in there, uh, so I was a little out of place. And also, you could feel, when you're someplace you're not wanted, and I was definitely someplace I wasn't wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I don't think that happens too much anymore now, but yeah, back then that's how it always was. You just had that eerie feeling of them just wanting to do whatever they could to get you out of there.
Absolutely.
Like you didn't belong, for sure. Shortly after that, well, actually, you were already pro at the time, but you turned pro in 1989 at the age of 21. What made you decide after the Tough Man contest that you wanted to go pro?
Again, it was one of those things. They called me, they offered me a fight, and I thought very truth is, I thought this will be a great story someday to maybe tell my children, or tell at a party or whatever, that I had a pro fight. Again, never dreaming that I would have a real career.
Right.
So I thought, I'll go down, I'll do this once. I went down to Bristol, Tennessee, fought the promoter's girl, and beat the crap out of her, knocked her down, and still it was a draw in a 4-round fight.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, this isn't a very good ending. Like, it's not a really good story, because I didn't win, I didn't lose, it was a draw.
Yeah.
So I went back the next month and had a rematch with her in Johnson City, Tennessee, and knocked her out. And that feeling again this was a real knockout. And so, yeah, I was definitely at this point hooked.
Yeah.
So, yeah, again, not in a boxing gym, but I would run a little extra. I was playing basketball in college, but I would run a little extra. I actually put a heavy bag in my apartment and just tried to watch fights. And then I would see what fighters, how they moved and how they threw their punches, and try to mimic that same movement.
Yeah.
On the heavy bag.
So just self-taught.
I was trying to teach myself. I don't think I did a very good job.
Let's just turn on some videos and see what we can learn.
Yeah, I was trying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last Belt Boxing said, do you agree us here in the UK are trailblazers in terms of female boxing? What a great job Eddie Hearn has done in launching Katie Taylor's career and gaining females big purses. I think Eddie Hearn has done a good job with getting females exposure and getting them better purses. I mean,
absolutely. I mean, Eddie Hearn's building some female fighters, and you know what? Love him or hate him, Jake Paul's doing a wonderful thing for some fighters' careers as well, male and female, because so many people tune in to see Jake Paul. He's able to generate so much money. He can pay other fighters that are actually putting in hard work and have amateur careers and have kind of paid their dues to the sport. He's able to pay them. And that's a marvelous thing. Actually, I have a young fighter that will be fighting on a Jake Paul promotion August 18th on DAZN from Orlando.
Nice.
It'll be the co-feature, Benny Aguilera. We're excited and happy for the opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, like you said, love him or hate him, but he is doing things, and for women's boxing too. I mean, he really is. Amanda Serrano wouldn't have made $1 million purse if it wasn't for Jake Paul.
Absolutely.
Period. I mean, that's really all there is to say about it. So, I mean, he's helping. He's helping.
Yes.
But speaking of you had so many great fights and knockouts before becoming the first female ever to sign with Don King in 1993. Tell us how you got connected with Don, and what was it like working with him? Was he what everybody says that he is, or was that just all talk?
So I got hooked up with Don King by Jesse Robinson, who was a trainer for King at the time. And we just, happened to both be in Daytona. Jesse came into a gym. I was sparring, and he actually thought I was a guy. I had long hair at the time, and my hair was up under my headgear. And yeah, they said, no, that's Christy. And so he's like, what? And then we just started to build a relationship. And that day or the next day, he said, I'm going to take you to Don King. Remember, I'm from Southern West Virginia. I mean, small town. Sure, you take me to Don King. Right. And it took some time. I actually, before I went to meet with Don King, I had gone up and fought at the Palace for Jackie Callan, and was a little talking back and forth with Jackie about maybe signing with her. But then the call came from Don King, and I mean, it's Don King.
It's Don King.
Yeah. It's Don King. So I went down, I met with them, and we just scared to death. I'm sitting across the table from Don King. He's not only the biggest person in boxing at the time, but I mean, he's just a huge personality. Everybody in all walks of life at that time knew Don King.
Yeah.
So it was very overwhelming. And but I had a great ride with them. I definitely got to fight on awesome cards, see lots of the world on Don King's dime, meet a lot of great people, do a lot of media, a lot of fantastic things.
Yeah.
Because of my boxing career and Don King.
Yeah.
Actually, I still work with him today. He's 92 years old, and I still help him out sometimes with some of the shows. Actually getting ready to try to sign a 14-0 cruiserweight with him. So
nice.
We'll see if that works out.
So he's really a good guy. Like, he's not like bad like everybody says.
Or
it's 50-50.
I think that you just have to be upfront with them. Part of him, I think part of his energy is he likes the part of the negotiation, the part of the hustle, the part of the, if he can get over on you a little bit, of course he's going to, but that's
everybody.
That's everybody in the boxing world, especially.
Yeah.
So you just have to kind of watch your P's and Q's and be in your game. I don't have any problems or doubts with him. If he says he's going to pay me, he just, paid me to run a show a couple years ago. And even Lisa said, don't you think you need a contract or something? I'm like, no, it's Don King. I mean, I know him too much.
You guys have that relationship now where, he's earned your trust and you've earned his trust. So, I mean, you just got to, if you're honest with someone and you earn their trust, then you got a good relationship.
Yep.
I do think, though, it sucks a lot that it took the fight between you and Deidre Gogarty in '96 at the MGM Grand Las Vegas for women's boxing and you to become a media star. You had done so much up to that point that it took the bloodbath and all that to happen for them to really give you the exposure. You did win the unanimous decision, even though you were the one bleeding and everybody talked about the blood and everything. But can you tell us a little bit about the fight? I did interview, I'm sure you saw the clip because I saw you liked it. Deidre talking about that a few weeks ago, but you tell us your thoughts on the fight, the outcome after and all the media attention, and just what was that fight like?
It was just crazy. It was a great fight. Deidre Gogarty is a tough ass. And, I pretty much think we're friends, I hope.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She had nothing but good to say about you.
I have so much respect for her and love for her. I hope, I hope everything positive is happening in her life. That night changed the world, just changed the world of women's boxing and the way that people saw women's boxing and the fact that, wow, these women can fight.
Yeah.
And I remember so many stories of the big actors and rappers and this and that back in the green room. And when the fight we first came into the ring, the guys were all walking to the back and they're getting drinks and they're not paying attention. And then they said by round number 2, they're pushing the women out of the way because the women were kind of watching, hey, these are women, they're more interested. And then they're getting pushed to the back by the second round. And we just hit it. It was just everybody tunes in that night to see all around the world, tune in to see Mike Tyson. And we gave them one hell of a show. So they took, stood up and took notice of women fights. And it was a crazy ride after that. And it's really been a crazy ride ever since.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you outshined the main event with Mike Tyson that night. I think your fight got a little bit more exposure than his at the time. Not to take anything away from him because he's one of the greatest of all time. What was it like fighting with Mike on Mike's cards? What's he like?
You know what? The whole funny thing about it is at any point in my career, Mike Tyson could have stopped it. But he was supportive. And he's like, somebody said to him after the Gogarty fight on the undercard with Bruno, Christy stole the show from you, Mike. And he's like, good. You know, I don't care. I'm glad for her.
Yeah.
And she deserved it. So he was just supportive. He's still supportive. He was on a Netflix documentary recently. We see him at the big fights in Vegas. Thank goodness. I mean, it was a lot of fun, but it was different. I mean, now when I go to Vegas, and maybe it's because I'm not fighting, but you walk through the casinos, big fights happening, and you don't have that same kind of energy.
Yeah.
Like Tyson brought energy, like it was just a buzz. Like the minute you landed in Las Vegas, like 10 days out, it's just buzzing, and everybody's talking about Tyson fight. It was different.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, boxing was not that boxing's like dead or anything, but it was way more at the peak then. Like everybody watched boxing.
And everybody watched Mike Tyson. You didn't have to be a fight fan to be interested to see Mike Tyson or Evander Holyfield, Lennox Lewis. There was Chavez.
Back then were just so good.
Yeah.
Like they were all like dog fights. That's the big difference. I think they were just much more action packed and entertaining. Like you knew 9 times out of 10, somebody was going to get knocked out or knocked down. And that you don't expect that now.
Yeah.
It's just not something you see often. It's more, I don't know. They box more now instead of like stand toe to toe. We'll just say that.
First, it's safety first. And that's a real fight game.
Yeah. It's not the same as it was back then, I don't think. But after that fight, though, you did also become the first female to appear on the cover of Sports Illustrated 1996 issue titled "The Lady is a Champ." How did it feel to be on the cover of a magazine? I mean, I've been in the paper, but I've been in a magazine, but never on the cover. So how was that?
I mean, that's Sports Illustrated. And if you're like, my age, Sports Illustrated, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It was, they called me like 3 weeks before it was going to come out and told me that if no one died or nothing crazy happened, I was going to get the cover. And so I like every morning I'm watching ESPN Sports Center, reading the newspaper, always keeping an eye on what's happening in the sports world. It was really exciting. I don't even have words for that one.
Yeah. Oh, it's Sports Illustrated, and it was the cover. I mean, it wasn't just an article; it was the cover.
Right.
So phenomenal. Last Bell Boxing also says, "Isn't it a shame that Clarissa Shields has to come to the UK for a big payday? Have American fight fans bought into female boxing? Have American promoters got more you do to promote female fighting in the States?" Yeah. Well, I think it's a shame that we have to go over, and it's been that way for as long as I can remember. Even when I was fighting, I always wanted to fight overseas, the girls that had the belts over there, because that's where not that there was a lot of money, but that's where more money was. It's always been that way. Like they always get paid more overseas.
Right. Well, I think, I mean, Eddie Hearn's over there doing big shows. They're getting yes. There's more interest overseas than in the United States, and I think it's just it's our sports fans. Number one, boxing as a whole has slid.
Yeah,
men's boxing also. I don't think we don't have the viewership that we did, and this United States just hasn't bought into women's boxing yet. Mexico, remember? I mean, Mexico, all the machismo. These are the great Mexican warriors.
Yeah.
They're now putting women on as main events in Mexico.
They do.
To me, that would be like the last place you would expect that would be supporting women's boxing. But they're supporting boxing. They're supporting real fights.
Boxing, period.
Women are going out there and putting on good fights. So they're being rewarded with that.
Yeah.
As main events. I don't know about the rest of the country. I don't know about our country when or if women's boxing will ever be like taken seriously.
Yeah. I agree with that. But speaking of the Mexico, I was nervous. My second fight with Mia St. John, when we had the rematch, when she wanted the rematch in Mexico, I was nervous to go to Mexico because boxing was so big in Mexico, and me being the challenger coming in, her defending champion. and I knew she had a really good relationship with the WBC, with the Suleiman and all. And so I was nervous going there, but I have always said, and will say till the day I die, my best experience as a fighter was when I went to Mexico. I mean, was there for 10 days out. We had to do, the public weigh-ins and the pre-fight weigh-ins and all the interviews and the public workouts and all. I never did any of that here, like ever. So it was nice, the exposure that we got over there. Not to mention, even though I was the challenger coming in, I couldn't go anywhere without people. Like, everybody knew who I was. I could go anywhere in the States and maybe have a handful of people walk up to me and know who I was. Like, it wasn't common that people knew, even when I was in my prime. Like, people, unless they were from my town and knew I was fighting, most people didn't recognize me. But there, everybody, like, you couldn't leave the hotel room. You couldn't even walk out of your room without people stopping you for pictures and autographs. You couldn't go eat. Like, I felt like I know what celebrities feel like when they go out and then people are like bomb rushing them, because that's how it was. And I was the opponent. So I loved fighting in Mexico. And they treat everybody fairly there. I mean, we were the co-main event. Actually, it's right there. Edgar Sosa was the main event. The poster's right over there. Edgar Sosa was the main event. But yeah, I loved fighting in Mexico. They treat everybody awesome over there.
Right. And the whole funny thing is, I was supposed to fight in Mexico in 1996, I think it was. It was the Chavez, Miguel Angel Gonzalez fight. And at that particular time, the country of Mexico would not allow women boxing.
Oh, wow.
So, and that was even after the Gogarty fight and everything. So King was going to put me on, for Mexico, and no, it was no, and it like he ran into that fight, but they would not allow it to happen.
That's crazy. And Don King was at the fight when I fought me. I didn't get to talk to him. I didn't get to meet him, but he was there, because I remember when I sat down, because my husband couldn't go with me. So I had Chevelle Hallback and Nate Campbell went with me to the fight. And Nate was there like before the fight night, because Chevelle couldn't come out the whole time. So Nate came out and he like worked out with me and did all that until Chevelle came like a day or so before the fight. And then she cornered me. But I remember going back, I don't know, it was like round 3 or something, sitting down, and I like was looking into the audience, and he was like second or third row. You can't miss him. I mean, you can't miss him. But yeah, I thought that was awesome. So he actually watched me fight once. I didn't get to talk to him.
Right.
But maybe he would, maybe he would recognize me since he saw me in person, and I won. So we were in Mexico. So that was a plus.
Right.
But yeah, that's surprising they didn't allow it over there.
Yeah. But I mean, it was back in the 90s. It was a long time ago, and women's boxing had we just had the Gogarty fight. So women's boxing was really kind of
just starting to kick
way young. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, there were many before me that had been doing it for a long time.
Yes.
But we were just like getting it to that next level, and it was still in that new.
Yeah, you were just lucky enough to be there were many before you, yes. Yeah. And I've interviewed several of them. But you were the one that kind of hit the fireworks, where it kind of exploded and got a little bit of exposure. Nobody else really got any exposure prior to you.
I was in the right place at the right time, and given the opportunity, was ready to go.
Yeah.
Ready to go.
Yeah. Another interesting one that I have to ask you about, that I always ponder about it, is the fight with Layla Ali, 2003. I need to know, how much did you really weigh when you fought Layla Ali? You did not weigh 159 pounds.
No, I left my hotel room weighing 147.
Yeah.
And then I put on some boots and stuff, and
and you probably put some weight in your pocket.
I weighed in army fatigues, total army fatigues, and I had a couple little stuff in my pocket, and we bumped it up there to, I think it was 59 or 60, something like that. So
yeah, so she officially weighed in at 162. You reportedly weighed in at 159, which I knew was, and I've always looked back at that fight and I'm like, well, she probably outweighed her literally by 30 plus pounds by the time fight night came. Tell us about the fight, though. Do you believe that had you been the same size as her, it would have been a different fight if there wasn't a significant weight difference? I know there was a lot of bad blood between you. You guys got into it at the weigh-ins. A lot of pushing.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny because I was just actually talking to a friend of mine this morning about Layla, and I think Layla and I were both in a bad situation. We were in bad relationships. We were probably both angry, just a different kind of angry, pissed off at everything.
Yeah.
And we were able to take it out on each other for a minute as far as the promotion for the fight. Plus, I mean, we had to sell it. We had to sell the fight, So the bad blood, yeah, I think there was some bad blood, of course, because we both said things that were pretty nasty. But now we're good.
Yeah.
I talked to her. She helped me out with that. I was doing a thing for Christy's Champs, and she donated a signed belt and some spices and stuff that she does.
Yeah, her little spices and stuff. Yeah.
So, the fight. She's a big woman.
Yeah,
she's a big woman.
That's why when I saw that you were fighting, and I knew you didn't weigh 159 pounds. I mean, I know because I'm a fighter. I mean, some people probably were like, "Oh, 159." Yeah. No,
yeah.
I knew you didn't weigh 159 pounds. But I mean, she's way bigger. Why did that fight even happen? I'm trying to figure out why did it even happen.
I'm going to tell you, this is the fighter in me, and I believe it until today. I really thought I'm going to hit her like she's never been hit before.
Yeah.
And my punching power is going to go. It's going to be okay because she's never been hit with somebody like me before. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And the thing is, she hit me the first fight, and at the first of the fight, I thought she would jab, stay on the outside. So probably my mind was a little relaxed when the opening bell sounded.
Yeah, thinking she was going to box. Yeah.
She came right over, cracked me with a really good right hand. First 10 or 15 seconds of the fight, probably. The fight was over. The fight was over. I was done. I was knocked out on my feet and couldn't. I thought I was walking sideways. I could never regain my balance. Totally knocked off my equilibrium, and I just was never able to get it back together.
Yeah.
I took a knee the first time and thought, okay, I'm going to be okay. I'll get it back. And then, I couldn't, and I continued to try to fight her off, and she was just too big. And I kept thinking I'm walking sideways.
Yeah.
So, I took a knee, and it's the worst 10 seconds of my boxing career. I don't want to say the worst 10 seconds of my life, but it was the worst 10 seconds of my boxing career. And if I could go back and relive that 10 seconds, I would. I would rather, thinking straight, I would rather her knocked me out and they had to carry me out than to stay on the knee and basically quit. And not basically, that's what I did. And I just am not a quitter, but
well, and I wouldn't consider it quitting. I mean, I've been hitting the eardrum just like you're talking about. And when your equilibrium is off, I mean, I finished the fight too, and I still think I did pretty well considering. But once your equilibrium is off, your whole body is off. Like everything is off. And I mean, I still have problems with that today. Like tying my shoe, my ears will pop and bubble, and I get lightheaded. If I sit up too fast, it's never been the same. But so I don't consider that you quit. You just there was no point in going back out there just to get like maybe hurt really bad.
Yeah, but that's what we would sign up for.
I know. I mean, I would have tried. Yeah, I mean, I can't say I did.
So I clearly, I wasn't thinking clearly, or I would have never stayed on a knee. Had I been thinking clearly, I would have fought to the end.
Yeah.
So I was already. I definitely had to be a little woozy or something was going on. I don't know. It just sucks. I was like, oh my God. And the thing is, when I took the knee the first time, her cut man, Cassius Green, actually got in the ring. She should have been disqualified at that particular moment. And had that happen, had the referee, and he's my buddy, or he was at the time, Freddie Steinwinder III, if he would have disqualified her, then maybe we could live to fight another day, and something else happens, and who knows?
Yeah.
But that was the plan. That's the way it worked.
I mean, she had to have been at 30, 40 pounds heavier than you fight night. I mean, there's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. And I always try to say, like, I don't care how big they are, and I've sparred with even men, obviously, that are way bigger, but the weight does make a difference. It really does make a difference, especially when they're leaning on you and laying on you, and it makes your whole body tired. Like you wouldn't.
And she's so tall. I mean, she's so tall.
She's tall. You couldn't even
I'm just
barely
a little
reach
bit
her.
under 5'4".
You're
And
5'4", and she's
she,
what? What is she
yeah,
like?
she's
5'10", 5'11"?
yeah, or 6 foot. Yeah, she's
6
up
foot?
there. Yeah,
That's a big reach.
yeah,
Well, that was an interesting one.
yeah.
But 2009, though, you beat Dakota Stone. You got your WBC Super Welterweight title. How did it feel to have the WBC World title?
Yeah, it was, it was awesome. It was great to get that opportunity. We actually fought in Rochester, New York, kind of sponsored by the International Boxing Hall of Fame a little bit. They were involved. So I
Yeah.
went up there and trained for like a couple of weeks. And, it was fun. It was interesting. Some of the Hall of Famers were there. It was great. It was great to get the WBC belt around my waist.
Yeah. Because you should have had lots and lots of belts, but back then it was hard to fight for belts.
They didn't even exist,
Yeah.
in 1996 when I started.
They didn't even have
At that level, the WBC, Jose Sulaiman gave me an honorary WBC title, but they weren't sanctioning women's fights. They weren't, ranking women. There was no women's organizations.
No, none.
At all. But it's okay. We gave it a shot in the arm, and that's why they're all out there today.
Yeah, true facts. Speaking of a little bit of outside the ring stuff, can you tell us when you first met Jim, when you went to the gym for training? Tell us a little bit about how did the relationship start? I know that he was very controlling, abusive throughout your whole relationship and career. Tell us a little bit about that and the stuff that you had to go through just in everyday life.
Yeah, so I went to Bristol, Tennessee to meet up with Jim and get this training, and it was one of those things where I trusted him. He was a lot older than me. I was very open with him about my life and my past, and I wanted to I wanted to learn how to box. At this point, I was like, no, I want to learn how to box. Still not thinking that this is going to be a career. I really went there thinking I'm going to do this for probably about 6 or 7 months. Yeah. I'll go back to West Virginia, get a teaching job, because that's what my degree is, in education. And, that'll be my life.
Yeah.
Of course, that's not the way it happened. I end up getting into a relationship with Jim. And a lot of that was getting into a relationship with him just to make everybody else in my life and my family happy that I'm in a relationship with a man. And I don't know. One thing led to another. I feel like I married him, but I really married boxing.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, boxing.
And a significant age difference between the two of you.
Yeah. And it was just all that really we did was boxing, with either my career or, the amateur team. There was always something just around boxing. So that went on. And he was abusive in a lot of ways. Like, he's my husband and my trainer, but he would make me weigh 3 times a day. Like, he would have to get on scales first thing in the morning, get on scales when I left the gym, which that's kind of normal. And then before I went to bed. That's overkill.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It was just little things. He would always control who I talked to on the phone. If a certain person called, maybe a business type person, he would tell me what to say to them. He would tell me how to ask them something, or what to, it was never about like my thoughts, even though they were talking to me.
They were talking to you, but you couldn't.
And I would tell him, my mouth moves, but his words come out. And
right.
that just kept on. And finally, as my career was over, I had the drug addiction and going through all this stuff, and then my career's done. I'm just, now I can get away from him.
Yeah.
Throughout my career, he said, if you ever leave me, I'll blackmail you. I'll tell the world you're gay. I have these pictures. I have these videos. I have, all this stuff I'm going to do to you. And then, he had told me, actually, even before I married him, that if ever you leave me, I'll kill you. And at 21 years old, I thought that's just, talk. That's just whatever. And then sometime in this relationship, and I always say, I don't really know the exact moment,
Right.
But sometime I knew this is the way it's going to end.
Yeah.
And then when it ended in 2010, when I left, and he said, if you leave, I will kill you. And I told him, do what you have to do, Jim. I knew that when I came back home, he was going to kill me.
Yeah.
And that's what he tried to do.
Yeah.
So, by the grace of God, he stabbed me a bunch of times, punctured my lung, shot me, missed my heart by 3 inches, cut me up, left me for dead. I mean, he literally left me for dead.
Yeah.
But by the grace of God, I got out of there and got to the hospital, and here I am today.
Yeah. The other day, and when I was doing some research, not that I didn't already know your whole entire life history, but still, like, going back, just like reminiscing some stuff. I watched a couple of the videos, the one you did with Teddy Atlas, where you went into like detail of the entire, like, from the morning all the way through the entire thing to getting to the hospital. It had me in tears. It really had me in tears. Just terrible, terrible. And the fact that you knew it was going to happen, but the fighter in you, I mean, there was no point in running. It had to end somehow.
Right. I said, I'm either going to live through or die with what he's going to do. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not going to run the rest of my life.
Right.
And I speak for domestic violence awareness, and it's hard. I have to be very careful because I don't want other women to think the same way.
Right.
But this is what I
Because
had.
that's a very dangerous path to take.
It's the wrong path. It's the wrong path.
And right. And I mean, that was just the fighter in you. Like, I'm going to fight him and I'm going to face it, and I can beat him, or I can win, or I can beat this. But yeah, not everybody is that lucky. Right. So that's not the right choice always to take that path, especially when you're speaking on it. But yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people ask you that. Well, it worked for you, so maybe but that's not always the case. And you're very, very lucky, being stabbed multiple times, shot in the chest. Your legs was cut up, even being able to get up to get out after sitting there for like over an hour before you even were able to get out. So that was just a once in a lifetime miracle, is what I would consider that. Anybody else probably would have been dead.
No, that's why when I woke up in the hospital, I said, God left me here for a reason.
Yeah.
And I really do believe that that's true. And that that reason is to help other people. And the way that I can help other people is by talking about domestic violence and making more people aware that domestic violence isn't just about the bruises.
Yeah.
Because even though mine ended very physical, leading up to that, it was more control and mental, emotional
abuse.
Yeah.
Well, he was, though, sentenced to 25 years in prison. Do you have to do you still speak to him at all, or is that completely cut off from your life? Or do you even worry, like, when he gets out? Hopefully he'll be dead by the time he gets out.
Yeah, he'll be like 91, I think, when he, his 25 years are up. That's the good thing about Florida. It's 25 years day for day.
Yeah.
So I say often that he'll probably live to be 91 just so that he can come out and try to kill me.
Yeah.
Or the longer he lives, the more that I have to fear that he's going to get out. He also would tell me that if I don't kill you, I will have somebody else to kill you. So now I'm a little more relaxed, but for the first couple of years afterwards, I was just always looking over my shoulder and really still scared.
Yeah.
Not that I don't, in the back of my mind, sometimes think that I'm an easy target out here, because I do.
Yeah.
I do still have that thought come through my mind.
I'm sure he had, I mean, obviously everybody has some kind of connections, but hopefully none that would be that crazy or stupid.
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
But I want to answer this one question.
Answer it. Go for it.
Do I think that Clarissa Shields? What do I think about Clarissa Shields saying she could beat Keith Thurman? Look, Keith Thurman will knock her out in one round. Keith Thurman would knock her out in like 45 seconds. I don't understand women that want to talk about. I mean, this is an elite fighter. Thurman is an elite fighter. Thurman is not some guy off the street that's never boxed before. There's no way in hell that she or any other female would beat Thurman. I mean, it's just This is the facts.
Yeah.
And she's talked about she would knock out Triple G. She's talked about she'll knock out this person, this guy, that guy. She don't even knock out women. How the frick is she going to knock out a man?
I mean, I don't know.
All I can say is Clarissa, and I'm working with her promoter a little bit. So I'm sorry I'm going off on this, Dimitri, but listen, she couldn't knock me out. Not maybe today because I've had a stroke and I'm brain injured and I have all this shit. I'm 55 years old. But in my time and her time, oh man, easy work.
She said easy work. I mean, I don't understand why she continues to call out men. I really don't. And I mean, granted, yes, if you're an elite female and then you're an elite male, it's the same thing we talk about every day, or at least I have been talking about lately with people with biological males competing in women's sports. They need to have their own league, separate is what they need to do. No woman, and it's a proven fact, no woman, even on the same elite level and can have the same amount of awards, all this shit is going to beat a male. It's not going to happen because biologically they are built different and they're just stronger across the board. So it's not going to happen. Now, granted, if it was some Joe Blow off the street, same size as me, guy, doesn't know how to fight, yeah, I could whoop his ass. If it's somebody who has the same kind of experience as me and is an athlete and fights for a living, they're going to kick my ass because they're freaking stronger. They're stronger.
Yeah.
But same thing. Yeah. I know people are always kind of like dancing around that subject, but I do not think that biological men, I don't care I have no problem with anybody being what they want to be at all. But if you were born biologically a male, I think that they need to make their own separate league for all of those to compete against each other. It's not fair for them to be taking away awards, gold medals, trophies and shit from women who've worked their whole life and now they can't ever win because they're going against a born male.
It's like this. Look, if you want to transition, that's 100%. I support you 100%. If that, do what you want to do, I'm okay with it. But listen, when you make decisions in life, it could be all kinds of decisions.
Yeah.
Right. My decision has been to be with a woman.
Yeah.
With that, I gave up some things.
Yeah.
To have a child. I mean, I know that you can adopt and all those things, but to biologically have a child is not happening. Okay. When you transition, there are things that you have to give up.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that competing in sports might be is one of them. You cannot you just can't do it. This is not right.
And that's why I say if they want to let that happen, then like every other sport, making men's basketball, women's basketball, make a league specifically for people who transitioned. That way it's fair. There's enough of them, they can have their own league. So why not? That's just where I sit with it. And I don't, people will probably get mad at me or whatever, but it's not fair. It's not fair. Let's see. I know there was another question I missed. Big Justin James. About the key therm. But then he said, Christy, out of all the women you fought and sparred, who do you think punched the hardest? Well, we already know the answer to that.
They all hit hard. Everybody picked on me. Everybody picked on me. Little Christy. Like I was like this short little, not so skinny, but was short. And just this coal miner's daughter from Southern West Virginia, and everybody picked on me. I don't know. Everybody hit hard. I think
I would assume out of all the people you fought in the ring, Layla probably was the hardest hitter because she was so much bigger.
She was strong. I tell you what, my wife Lisa is strong as shit. I mean, she's strong.
I can agree with that.
Anybody that really watched my career, you never saw me box except against Lisa Hollowine.
Yeah.
And I boxed. I never stood there and went toe to toe with her. And I actually, to me, I showed a little boxing skill, a little speed, a little combinations, movement. I mean, I used my brain and not my brawn that night.
Yeah. Facts. That's facts. You've spoken also about, you briefly mentioned it. For those of the that are watching though, that going through similar situation, becoming addicted to cocaine, which I believe Jim was the one feeding that to you, probably to keep you under his wing or control you a little bit more. But can you tell us a little bit how the addiction started and how you overcame it?
Yeah, it was just crazy because I've been one of those people all through my career. Um, I'm not gonna end my career broke and addicted to drugs, and I ended both. I ended my career on both notes. He brought in a baggie of coke and basically threw it down on the coffee table one day. You know, so and so at the gym said he's quit, and so this was his way of showing me. He brought this coke to me and gave it to me. And now I know that was a whole setup thing.
Yeah.
And so I let it. I actually let it sit there on the table for a day or two, and then I'm miserable. I'm miserable, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna go do this.
Yeah.
And then I was just, oh, this is pretty good. You know, I like this high, I like this feeling. Um, got a little more, and it was just like I started Thursday. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Then I'll be back in the gym on Monday, and then it became Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then it was all the time, every day. I would be up for days at a time, take pills to go to sleep, and then finally, after about 3 years, I was walking through my house and looked in the mirror and was like, "You look like an addict." And then I'm like, "No, you don't look like an addict. You are an addict." And at that point, it still took me a couple of days, but I got my shit together, and that's when I told him I'm leaving.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and no problems. I mean, you've definitely overcome it and no problems with it. So for all of those out there listening that are addicted, you can beat it. And
I
still,
think that especially cocaine is so much mental addiction, and I'm pretty sure that the studies show that it's not really physical like some other drugs,
yeah,
but it definitely is mental, and it's yeah.
yeah. Let me get back to the comments before people get mad at me. Hold on. Christy, your story is amazing. I watched your documentary on Netflix. Glad you're here to tell your story. Wow, you're so brave. Um, she's 14-0 with 2 KOs. Who are we talking about? Oh,
Clarissa?
is that talking about Clarissa?
Yeah.
14-0, 2 KOs. Yeah, only 2 KOs. She talks about that a lot, though.
But then why do you say that? How can you say that if you're not got two people? And then she says, oh, if she had 3 minute rounds, she would knock more people out. I knocked out 31 people in 2 minute rounds. So, and well, I started actually my first of my career, I did fight 3 minute rounds. And somewhere along the line, it transitioned into 2 minutes. But look, if you can knock people out, you're gonna knock them out in 2 minutes. You don't need 3 minutes.
No. Well, you still have 10 rounds.
Yeah.
So that's still a lot of time. That's still 20 minutes.
If you're gonna knock somebody out, you're gonna knock them out.
I don't know. I don't know what to say to that. I think I heard they're gonna do an exhibition or something for charity.
Yeah.
I mean, I just read that this morning.
With Clarissa?
I read it this morning. She tweeted that she's officially in training camp for Keith Thurman. And I know he said they were asking him about it yesterday, or I saw a video yesterday, and he said he never want to fight a woman. He thinks it's ridiculous. But if she wants to do it for charity, he would like to give money to his charity, so he would do it for charity. But he wouldn't. He said he would only use his jab.
I work some with one of Thurman's guys. I'll have to give him a call and find out about that.
He said, well, see, yeah, let me know if it's official. He said if he did it, though, he would only use his jab.
Thurman's getting ready to fight a big fight, so I can't imagine he's even anyway considering anything like that.
And it could just be all media. I mean, you know how that is. That could just be out there. We'll see. Going back to mega fights, we're talking about mega fights. 2005, you were supposed to fight Lucia Riker, titled $1 Million Lady, which would have been like the biggest fight in women's history ever. It was canceled due to Riker having a ruptured Achilles during training. Why did the fight never get like rescheduled? Like, what? Tell us the story. Tell us the skinny. Like, why did it not happen? Did she not want to fight you, or what? I mean, what happened?
I called them. I called Lucia's people after it was canceled and asked would they please reschedule it. And they told me they would get back to me. I'm still waiting for them to get back to me.
They never called at all.
They never
That's
called
pretty
me back.
common.
Never called me. And I said at the time that Lucia Riker can never fight again unless she fights me.
Yeah.
And she never fought again.
Yeah.
And I really believe, and I'm trying hard to let go of that animosity that I have for her. But I believe she didn't fight because, not that she was injured. I believe she didn't fight because she didn't know she could beat me. She had been with everybody she had fought before. She knew she could beat them.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could beat her or not.
Yeah.
But I could live with that.
Yeah.
I could live with it. I wanted to see if I could beat her. I wanted to see if she could beat me.
Yeah.
But she wasn't built the same.
She wasn't. She didn't have it in her back pocket. She was 100% sure she was going to win.
Right.
So she thought it wasn't worth the risk. We'll just retire.
Right. That's what I think.
That's very possible. She never did fight again.
Never fought again.
I am supposed to have her on the show later on in the year. I will ask her if she keeps her word and comes on. But I'll ask her that question, and we'll see if she'll tell me. She probably won't, but we'll see. Okay, so, and I've always talked to my husband about this. The only fight that you ever had aside from the Leila Ali fight that actually bothered me, and I never asked you this in person, but I guess I should have since I see you now. But the rematch with Mia St. John, our one common opponent that we have, you lost the unanimous decision, which I know for a fact you shouldn't have lost that fight. Even at one point dropping your hands to let her repeatedly just hit you over and over, showing that she couldn't hurt you. But tell us about the fight. What happened? What happened with that fight?
So I don't remember exactly when we fought. Was it August maybe?
I think so. It was your last fight. I didn't write down the date, but it was that was for your last fight.
Yeah. So I had a stroke about 8 months before.
Before that?
Yeah, I had a stroke in June when I fought Dakota Stone the rematch.
Yeah.
And they stopped the fight with 50 seconds to go, and I was ahead on all the cards. I went in to have my hand fixed. My hand was broken in 9 spots. I had a stroke while I was under for surgery. And of course the doctors told me never get hit in the head again. It was too dangerous, blah, blah, blah. I'm a fighter. I wanted to get to the 50th win, and I felt like Mia was a safe opponent to get to that 50th win. So I was real close to having a stroke. I had a stroke not too far before, and I had just finished up the trial with Jim Martin, and it was too much. I mean, like, I feel like if it would have been a few more months, even with the stroke, it could have been a better performance. It was terrible. I mean, I don't even watch it, but I've seen clips, and I'm like, oh my God, that's like, it's just embarrassing. And it's sad because why? I mean, I did it, but why did my people let me do that?
Right. Well, why didn't they postpone it, or you're not ready yet, or maybe we should wait a little bit.
And we actually postponed it once because I used the trial as the excuse, but really was the stroke. I didn't let, of course, the commission in California didn't know how to.
Yeah, they wouldn't let you fight at all.
I used the same brain scan because in California, I think it's good for 3 years.
Yeah.
So I was able to use the same brain scan. Yeah, it was just a dumb decision.
So but yeah,
it was arrogance in me that there's no way, even after having a stroke and on my worst day, Mia's not going to beat me.
Yeah.
So when Mia did beat me, I immediately, retired and am done with boxing as that being a fighter.
Yeah.
Even in my heart, or my mind, I don't know which, some days I still want to do it.
Yeah.
And I've gotten a lot of offers to do like this celebrity boxing stuff, and all these old time fighters are coming back. But I guess I shouldn't.
She said, I guess I shouldn't. I say that every day. I shouldn't. But yeah, no, that was the only fight other than the Ali fight, and it's always bothered me. And because I knew something was wrong, I did not know that you had a stroke. I didn't know about the hand surgery, and all of that. But I knew there was something wrong. But she couldn't knock you out. I mean, you sit there and let her hit you like 20 times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which probably wasn't the best thing to do considering you had just had a stroke.
Right. Probably not.
It probably wasn't a very good idea.
Yeah. And, it was crazy. But then Mia said, like, she came out publicly and said that she had used steroids and during that time.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, Mia knew I had a stroke.
She did.
She did know. And I'm thinking, you knew I had a stroke and you still cheated? I mean, that's kind of shitty.
That is kind of shitty. And she did come out with a big article about how she used to use steroids. And I can't remember. I fought her 2009 is when I won my belt against her in Mexico, but I had fought her before that. So that was 2010 when you fought her, I think.
No, it was 11 or 12.
Okay. So I don't know. Maybe she was doing. I fought her. I rematched her. I want to say like a year, like 2 years after our first fight.
Yeah.
I want to say, because I was a replacement fighter to fight her the first time when she fought in Indiana because Rita Figueroa, who was my stablemate, got hurt like 3-4 days before the fight.
And just so you know, I love Rita.
Yes.
Like I don't even know. I can't even remember for sure. I don't think we ever met each other.
Not met. I just had Rita on last week or the week before, and I told her that you said hey because I told you I had Rita on, which is why I missed the show last month because I didn't want to reschedule her. And I told her you said, hey, she's like, oh my God, I love her so much. Like I've never met her. And I said, you should come down to one of the country box fights and
absolutely
hang out. And he's like, I might do that. So I was like, I'll give you all the dates. Like when she tells me, like, I'll let you know when the next one is. Cause she always tells me when the next one is.
Yeah. Well, so August 8th, of course. And then we have September 5th. September 5th is the next one. So
September 5th.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll have to text her and tell her when that one is. But she said she has never met you, but yeah, she feels the same way. She's great. Yeah. I trained with her. I started with her in the amateurs at Windy City Gym in Chicago. Yes, but she was originally supposed to fight Mia, and then she tore her rotator cuff, had to have surgery like 3-4 days before the fight. And I was fighting at featherweight, and that fight was at lightweight. And I was like, I'll just weigh in with my clothes on. So I know the feeling. I'll just weigh in with my clothes on, put some weights in my pocket, which is how I made weight for that fight with Mia St. John the first time. But when I won that fight, Mia went on and on about it was a hometown advantage. And I'm like, I'm not even from Indiana. And I was a replacement fighter. So how did I? And she came out with 1 in a Million, which was the promoter's name on her outfit. And I'm like, the fight was for you. Like nobody else here. Like this was the Mia St. John show. Like everybody else was just on the card. But yeah, so then she wanted the rematch in Mexico. But it was great to beat her in Mexico and take her belt. So I was fine with that. But yes, Rita's great. But that fight always bothered me.
She makes me smile all the time.
Yeah, and her pose, I mean, her most is amazing. I love her pose.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully one of these days she'll get her butt up here for one of the fights. Because I told her I said I go. Now I try to go once a month, and I see her at the fights. So I was like, just come down. She's like, we drive through there sometimes to go visit family. I'm like, well, then you need to make a trip on one of these dates.
Right.
So hopefully one of these times she'll get up here and she can actually meet you. But I said we can all hang out in Nashville.
Yep.
Like not like your birthday though.
No.
Not like that. I think, let's see, if I missed anything else, WBC is looking at starting a transgender league, I believe. Thoughts on that? I think that's fabulous, Michael. They need to.
Right. If I do think they are thinking about that, talking about it. Yeah, I mean, like you said, if everybody's on equal playing field, then it doesn't matter. I mean, equal playing field.
It's even playing field. I think they should. And it's kind of funny that people mention that now, and I didn't realize it so much, I guess so. But I just had Coyote. What is his name? Somebody just mentioned to me that I think it was my second fight. I fought a girl named DJ Morrison. Second or third fight. Ta-da! I said, he sent me a message, she froze. I said, is she froze or did I froze? Because I'm not in there.
One of
Okay.
us.
But anyways, girl that I fought, her name was DJ Morrison. And I always thought she looked extremely manly when I fought her. She fought me in a wife beater and a pair of basketball shorts and a pair of tennis shoes. But I always thought she was manly. But now, if you go on my record, it says David Morrison.
I know that person. I don't know that person personally, but that person that you just said, David Morrison, reached out to me for to make a fight for him, and
Really?
he told me that he had so many fights before as a woman, and right,
Yeah.
and yeah, I'm like, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that. You know, he wanted me to match him with the guy, but I didn't want to get that. I didn't, you know, I'm a small time promoter. I didn't need that criticism or scrutiny or any.
Yeah. But I didn't realize it until somebody mentioned it to me. Coyote Duran, the guy that does the drawings for the internet, the Hall of Fame, the guy that does all the drawings, he just drew a portrait of me. And he wrote an article, like he always writes articles about the people he draws. And he wrote like a little spiel about me. And it said she even fought a man when she was fighting pro, when she was actively fighting. And I'm like, well, I know I looked like a guy, but
Right.
nobody told me it was a guy. It just said DJ Morrison. I didn't know. I mean, but it looked like a guy. But a lot of people back then, a lot of the opponents looked manly. So that wasn't uncommon to like wonder, is it really a girl?
Right.
But yeah, now it says David Morrison on BoxRec on my record. So apparently they transitioned one way or the other. I'm not really sure which way.
No.
But I guess, hey, I won. I knocked him out. I knocked him out.
There
So that was good. I won by knockout. I always ask everybody on the show, and I'm sure you've been through a lot of it, but we've all been through a lot of bullshit in the male-dominating sport of boxing. Can you share some of the things that you had to go through in your career that you just shouldn't have had to deal with being a female in the sport of boxing?
I think I mean, one of the most disrespectful, hurtful kind of things, like hurt your pride. I fought in Punta Gorda, Florida, and they put me in literally a janitor's closet to change.
Oh.
And like there's water in there. It's mops and brooms and buckets and so I think it was like, you know, it hurts your self-esteem. You know, it's like so disrespectful. Yeah. So that was one of the crappy things. Yeah. Back in the 90s, there was actually the Carbajals wouldn't let me train in their gym in Phoenix. I went to another gym in Phoenix and trained. After that, I became friendly with Michael Carbajal, but yeah. So I mean, it wasn't easy. And
No.
These women that are doing it today, they just don't even take a minute to think about us that broke down a lot of walls.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the ones that came before us made it a little easier for us. You know.
Yeah, I talk about that. I mean, and that's why when Talkin Fight reached out to me about doing the show, I'm just so busy with the kids, my kids, things like that. And then we own a barbecue business. Like we're always doing events. Like I'm always busy, and it's so hard to find time to like write out the shows, like research the fight. Like it takes a lot to do a podcast, people. Like people don't realize it. I mean, or at least for me, I mean, maybe not for everybody, but I put a lot of work into it because I want the shows to really be good and ask questions that people would want to know. So I put a lot of work into it. And I'm just like, man, I just really don't have time. But then I really got to thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? I'm like sick and tired of fighters today not giving dues and respect to past fighters.
Right.
Because I don't care if you were in the ring once or you were in the ring 80 times or 100 times. Women of today did not make women's boxing. There would be no Olympics, period, without all of the trailblazing fighters that came before them. I didn't make women's boxing. I was just a small part of it. You didn't make women's boxing. There's people before you, but we all paved a path and put a little brick down to kind of build the road and build the road and build the road to get to where it is today, even though it's not equal yet. They're getting more exposure. They're getting the TV time. They're getting more money. They can actually work full time and not have another job, or, you know, fight full time and not have another job, where we had to be moms, work a 9 to 5, go to the gym whenever the hell we could until whenever time we got off, and go to sleep and do it all over again, because we fought part-time, not full-time. So there was a big difference. I used to always tell people, I can't imagine the fighter I would have been if I could train and just train. Like that was my job. Like I went to the gym 2-3 times a day, and that's all I did. And I had a nutritionist and like all this shit. I can't even imagine the fighter we would have been if we had that stuff. Like we had a couple hours a day training. That was it, because I worked all freaking day, and then I had kids that lived with me at the gym.
Right.
So it's just what it was. But that's why I decided to go ahead and do the show, because I wanted to bring on people and have them tell their stories, tell their journeys. One, it helps future fighters, you know, little kids, people that look up to past fighters. But nobody pays tribute to past fighters anymore. And the one thing that bothered me the most is people always ask females now, like in interviews, like, who was your role model, or who did you look up to, and they all say male fighters. That pisses me off to no end, because there are, like, back then, granted, there wasn't a lot of females to look up to because there really wasn't any that were known. So I can understand back in the day not giving a name, but now, like, there are thousands of females that came before this generation. There has to be somebody that you liked or that you looked up to or thought was a great fighter. Like, you could,
Or just thought that, hey, wow, if she could do it, I could do it.
something.
You know, I didn't have that person. Like I
Right.
had never seen. I didn't even know women box professionally when I did a professional fight.
Right, because they didn't ever expose it.
So you know, it was a different time. Now it's yeah.
But that's why I decided to do the show. Because I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put on all these people, have them tell their stories to the world. This is a nationwide platform. It's nationwide. But just to tell their stories, and hopefully some of the fighters start watching and they're like, oh, yeah. Because we all built women's boxing. Every single person that has been involved built it. Not one person. And I just don't like it that I feel like it gets disrespected. All the past fighters get disrespected and overlooked. That's the problem. And that's why I did the show.
Right. Cool. Well, thank you.
Yeah, but speaking of today's boxing, in your opinion, how has the landscape of women's boxing evolved since the early days of your career?
You know, I felt like we were on a real upswing at the end of by the end of my career, or especially by the end of the time with Don King, which is 2001. And then, you know, then we talked about the Riker fight. So there was still interest, a little buzz.
Yeah.
Then it dropped off, I think.
Yeah.
And even Layla didn't, you know, I don't feel like Layla had the same love for boxing that I have for boxing. She loved it. Her father had done it. She wanted to be a boxer. She was a champion. But it was just another pawn in her life. She was just another avenue. she was really going to something bigger for her.
Yeah.
And where she has, you know, she
That was
did
like a pit
modeling
stop.
and acting and all the other stuff that she does.
Yeah.
So I think you know, after she was gone, then there was just a really a lull in
Yeah.
boxing. Then you know, women started boxing as in the Olympics, so people start talking about it again. And Clarissa Shields, great for her. She was a great amateur. She won 2 gold medals. Awesome. But I really, you know, to carry it into the pros, it's been hard. Part of that is because the United States just doesn't really support women's boxing.
Yeah.
I mean, well, let me say this. I was actually in the Garden when Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano sold the Garden out, put on a fight that lived up to the hype.
Yep.
And, you know, that fight had to energize women's boxing and kind of take it to the next level. I don't know. I don't know where it is.
Yeah.
I think we have more names. We have a couple promoters now that are putting females on on a regular basis. But the talent pool is still very shallow.
Yeah. I think there is some
women's boxing probably maybe forever.
Yeah.
There's just not going to be enough females that are going to want to get hit in the head for a living.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there are a lot of up and coming ones now that are newer on the scene. And I know there's a broad USA boxing team. I mean, if they choose to go pro with it, I mean, a lot of times amateurs don't ever go pro. They just stop once they're done. But yeah, I mean, I guess time will tell and we will see. We will see what happens. What advice would you give to the aspiring female boxers who are looking to make their mark in the sport?
Stay true to you. Keep good people around you. And even though you think you have good people around you and people that you can trust, you have to keep an eye on your stuff. Yeah. I mean, whether that stuff is your money, whether that stuff is how you're moved, how you're marketed, how you're trained in the gym, you still have to be in control of you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
I can't remember who all it was, but I know throughout your career, you've been a role model inspiration to many, many fighters. And several have told me even you're the reason they started boxing after seeing you fight. How does it feel to know you've had such a positive impact on so many other lives?
You know, I don't think that I realized that until like further away from your career you get, I guess you start to be, maybe you feel that people appreciate you more or appreciate you a little bit. So you start to think, I've just recently started to think, wow, you know, this fight with Gogarty, it did make a difference. I mean, it really did change the way that women's boxing is perceived. It did open up a lot of doors, and I think it's really cool that female fighters, and even sometimes I get guys that'll come to me, you know, I love watching your fights on the Tyson cards, and you know, you're really the reason I started going to the gym. So I mean, it's you know,
it's awesome.
Strokes your ego a little bit.
Yeah, boost the ego, get a little bit there. But it's so funny, and I tell my husband, he laughs at me all the time. But like when I met you at the inductions, like it's like the first time I met when I first met Chevelle Hallback at we fought on the same card in California is the first time I met her, and then we became really good friends after. That's why she would meet me in Mexico, and all that. But the first time, like to me, like meeting you, you're almost like you don't even know what to say. It's because like to me, like you're a celebrity. Like to me, it's like you're an idol or you're famous. I don't know, to me, because like you were so big in women's boxing. But I can remember when we went to the inductions, like I was so nervous to go up and ask you, like, can I get your can I get your autograph? Can we take a picture? And my husband's like, just freaking go talk to her. She's just a person just like you. And I just don't see it that way. I guess I don't know. To me, it's different because it was me, like, I don't know, looking up to you or whatever. But yeah,
I appreciate that. But I think the reason that maybe I caught on a little bit in the 90s, I feel like the fans, and then because of fighting on Tyson's cards, it was like
Yeah.
not just boxing fans that were exposed to my fights. It was just sports fans or just people actually.
Yeah.
Everybody watched Tyson. I think people, and this is who I am. They know that I'm just the person next door.
Yeah.
Nothing special. I don't have any built-in fan clubs, any built-in fans. I'm just next door. I'm just your neighbor.
Well, you are. And I mean, I know that now I've met you several times now. Like we've been in person several times now. So like now I'm comfortable talking to you, like, just like you're just another person, but you know what I mean? I'm sure there's somebody you looked up to, or one of the guys, or the first time you fought with Mike Tyson, or like you said, when you met Don King, like you just get that nervous gut feeling like, well, what do I say? Or I don't want to be stupid, or like, I don't know, what should I do? It's fine now. Like I'm fine now with you, but you know what I'm saying. Everybody knows what I'm saying. I'm not crazy.
Well, I'm pretty simple. So
you are. You're an amazing person for sure. But you just never know that though when you're first meeting somebody. And a lot of I have met a lot of people that I looked up to or whatever, and they're just assholes.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
you just don't know.
And it breaks your heart. It breaks your heart because you're like so excited to get to meet this person, and then you meet them and you're like, oh my God, what an ass. Yeah. So I mean, I've been on the end of both ends of that story. I try to be nice to everybody that wants to meet me. Not that I don't have the fan base you have, but still. Let me see, back to where we were at. Tell us about when you first met Lisa. I mean, we talked about it. You guys fought in 2001. And then I think briefly you guys started sparring after that. Tell us about how two rivals in the ring ended up being soulmates. Yeah. She decided she was going to come to one of my fights that I was promoting in Charlotte. And I'm like, yeah, come on down. We were talking on the phone a lot. And she was calling me like every day. And I was flattered, but I didn't know why. But then when I saw her, I went to the airport to pick her up. And I'm like, oh, wow, she's really pretty. I never really looked at her like that or thought, we were always sparring or fighting, it was competition. So just kind of one thing led to another after several bottles of champagne. And we've pretty much been together since.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I just think it's so awesome that you two fought and then ended up together. I mean, that's just like a dream come true, I guess. Two fighters. I mean, you guys have the same path, same journey, not same journeys, but lots in common. We'll put it that way.
And it's fun. We both have a love for boxing and to get to do the promotions together. And she supports that. She supports the domestic violence stuff. She gives me lots of encouragement. She's definitely the glasses half full person, and I'm the glasses half empty. The world is crashing. This is never going to work out right. Yeah. So I'm trying to take on more of her thought because I do believe if you think positive happens.
Yeah.
So
it's hard to do.
It's hard. And
I'm the same way. I'm a half empty.
Yeah.
I'm a half empty. I would consider myself a half empty. I always think the worst.
Me too.
My husband's always like, why do you always think? I don't know. Because I like to see I want to see what the bad side could be. So I'm prepared.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. That's just the way it is, I guess. But after retirement though, we were just talking about Christy Martin Promotions. You've been very successful with that, along with, I think you do training with some fighters and stuff, but tell everybody a little bit about that part of your life and how do you like promoting versus fighting? Like, does it give you the same rush or is it not the same?
It's definitely not the same. You do a lot of work your butt off. And, at the end of the night, usually I'm the only one that doesn't get paid. But I feel like the promotion part of it is exciting in the fact that I want to be part of some young fighter's journey to get that belt, to put that WBC belt around their waist, and they can hopefully they'll look over and say, Christy, we appreciate that you helped me do this.
Yeah.
that's what I'm hoping to accomplish as the promoter. Um, it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's too much work. I loved my job. I loved being a fighter. I loved training. I loved being in the fights. I loved it all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, big question that I'm sure a lot of people ask you, and I've personally asked you this before, and I know the answer already, but in case people in the listening want to know, why no females on your card very often?
Well, you're right, but I just had a card Saturday.
I know you did. I said that's why often.
Yeah, with Melissa Hernandez and
Yeah.
Carla Torres. It was a great fight. Melissa got upset, but Torres put on a hell of a performance, and she's a really good fighter and a really good person. I enjoyed the time with her. It's hard to put female fighters on.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't want to or that I'm against it. It's just for the same reason big promoters probably are not doing it. It's expensive. It's hard. If like at the last minute you lose an opponent, it's hard to find an opponent.
Yeah.
And then you kind of get held up. I mean, guys hold you up, but like the women can really hold you up because they know it's very limited options. So that's really why. I mean, I'm sure if I could find that one female fighter that had a little bit of swagger, a little bit of dog, a little bit of I want to knock you out. Maybe but even then, I mean, you have to pay her, and then you have to pay opponents to come in. It's expensive, and I don't have a big sponsor. I'm not Eddie Hearns. I don't have deep pockets. I don't, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to find it.
I get it. I know I'm not the only one who probably thought that question, so I would just kind of clear the air with it. I knew the reason behind it. And women just want a lot of money now. And not that they shouldn't. I mean, don't get me wrong. And not that they shouldn't get more money. It's just, I think they're expecting too much money too fast in their careers is kind of part of the problem. You got to kind of build to that.
What I think every fighter has to understand that it's about who puts butts in the seats for the promoter. Yeah. If the promoter doesn't make enough money to cover the bills to put the event on, then no one's going to get paid much.
Yeah.
But if you're a fighter, male or female, and you can sell tickets, trust and believe, if there was a woman in Myrtle Beach where I've been doing shows that could sell tickets, she'd be on every show. And she'd be getting the biggest purse. She would headline the show and be on the biggest purse. If there was a male fighter in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, that could sell it out, he's going to be the one.
Yeah.
It's just business.
Yeah, it is. Well, speaking of the Melissa, I missed the fight because I was working. You said it was a good competitive fight. I know Melissa lost, I think, a decision. I think I saw her post that she lost a decision, I think. But so how was the fight?
The fight was very good. The scoring was a little crazy.
Yeah.
One judge had it like 59-56. It was a 6-round fight. And then the other two judges had a little close. It was like, I don't remember, but their scores were closer. But when that first one came out at 59, 55, 56, whatever, I thought Melissa won.
Yeah.
Even though in my mind, I'm like, this fight was close. No one should have won at that score.
Right.
But it came out that Torres won that big and on all 3 cards.
So it could have been a draw, really, then. I mean, it was that close.
I think it was. I need to watch it again. I was right there, but at the same time, there's people asking me questions, and I'm getting distracted and not paying 100% close attention. But yeah, it was a close fight.
Yeah.
No one won 59-55. That I know.
Okay. Is it anywhere you can watch it now?
Countrybox247.com. Countrybox.
Okay. Yeah.
Just don't listen to the commentator because the commentator was a total ass. Just don't listen to the commentator.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I want to watch it. Because I wasn't able to watch it when it was going on, but I will watch it and see what I think too. But it was good that it was a competitive fight. Yep. And maybe she can fight again over there. Who knows? We'll see. But yeah, I was super excited. I was like, damn, I want to go to that one. But we had an event. We had events. There was no way I could go. Yeah, I mean, I messaged you. I was like, damn, Why can't that one be in Nashville? Because
Right.
I want to go to that one. I don't know. Maybe you could talk her into coming to Nashville.
It's funny because I actually had mentioned to them about fighting on the Nashville card, but they
Yeah.
no, they wanted to come to Myrtle Beach to my card. So
Well, damn it, they need to come to Nashville next time.
yeah, maybe they'll do a rematch in Nashville.
Yes, make the rematch in Nashville so I can be there.
Right.
You were I talked about this in the intro though. First female inducted into the Nevada Boxing Hall of Fame 2016. You were one of the first women inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 2020, like the first time ever women were allowed. You've been inducted, I think, I might be wrong, but I think 6 Hall of Fames now. One of which was the International Women's Boxing Hall of Fame that I met you at last year. Is that right? 6 total?
I think so.
Okay. Well, how does it feel to finally, like we were talking about, all your hard work pay off and really be recognized in so many different Hall of Fame organizations, like giving you these awards? Like, that's awesome. I mean, I'm only in one, but I mean, 6, that's phenomenal. And especially the first one in the International Boxing Hall of Fame, that's huge for women.
It's pretty unbelievable. You know, it's yeah, now that you get older and you look at things a little differently. So I do feel like people appreciated my career, whether they thought I was a good fighter or not, doesn't matter. They feel like they had appreciation for what I did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And everybody knows you. I mean, and for that reason. Tell everyone, though, a little bit about your book, Fighting for Survival. I have my copy, everybody, right here, and mine is autographed. But if you want one autographed, I know you can buy one, and I'm sure Christy will tell you where you can get it. But there's mine. I got it at the inductions last year. So tell them about your book.
So we have a book, Fighting for Survival, written by Ron Borges, who, boxing fans remember from the 90s, the 80s. He's been around a long time with the Boxing Globe. I mean, the Boston Globe covering boxing. Yeah. He's written a lot of books. He contacted me and asked me would I be interested in doing a book with him, and I'm like, I've had a lot of people contact me. I've talked to them, and nothing's really ever panned out. He said, well, where are you going to be in a couple of weeks? I have a show going in Florida. So he flew down and met me in Daytona. We talked about doing the book. And really, I remembered him from my fight days. So we kind of hit it off. Knew a lot of the same people, knew a lot of the same stories, a lot of the same places. So it was fun. It was hard. There were many days that we talked and I would go to bed after we were done, because it was like draining, heavy. But it was good. And Ron's a great guy. I told him he's stuck with me for the rest of his life now.
Yeah, facts. Yeah. And you can buy it on your website,
ChristyMartin.com. You can buy the book, and I will autograph it and mail it out myself.
Personally, it won't be like a stamped one. I mean, I got mine autographed in person. Sorry, guys, but I mean, I was in person and watched her autograph it. But yours will be autographed too in person. Like it will really be her. Not a stamp.
I do it and take them to the box myself, to the post office. I have friends at the post office now.
Yes, I'm sure. I'm sure you've been to the post office just about as many times as you've been at fights lately.
Yeah.
Looking back on your career, what is the legacy that you hope that you leave behind, and what you want to be remembered for most? I mean, we know what you are, but what do you want to be remembered for most?
That I fought hard every time out. That I gave it my all. I've cheated on a lot of things in my life, but boxing was not one of them. I haven't always, now if you consider dieting part of boxing, I might have cheated on the diet, but I really never cheated on my sport.
What is dieting? I
never cheated on my sport. I always trained as hard as I possibly could. I ran as hard as I could. I did the best I could with the diet. I didn't have that person. I didn't have that dietitian at home taking care of me like that. But
none of us did, I don't think.
Yeah, I really, I loved my job, and so That's what I want people to realize, that I would or remember that I gave it my all, bell to
Yeah.
bell.
And you did. And you did. Is there anything else that you want to let the world know or talk about before we wrap it up? I know we've been here almost 2 hours and you're probably like looking at the clock like, what the hell? But is there anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
Just that look for the book on Christy Martin Promotions.com,
Yep.
and support Country Box over in Nashville. We're doing
Yeah.
a show every month. Countrybox247.com to watch the show. But if you're in Nashville, come and check us out at the Texas Troubadour. And
I will be there next Tuesday with Christy. So y'all come down next Tuesday if you guys are in the Nashville area.
Absolutely.
You
and
can
tell everybody, Champ has to tell everybody, hi.
Hi, Champ.
He's been asleep on my lap the whole time.
Hi, baby. I'll see you Tuesday too.
Champ will be there Tuesday.
Yes. I love Champ.
Champ is my little buddy.
I know he's with you everywhere.
Always.
So is he more attached to you than Lisa?
Sometimes I think that, but he wants her attention all the time too. So I have to tell you a quick story, and then we can go. So we went into the post office today. We go into the post office today. I had to mail out some stuff to one of our fighters, and of course I have Champ in his little sling bag. And the lady says to me, she's kind of hateful. She says, "Is he a service dog?" I said, "Yes, he is." And she kind of didn't believe me, which he isn't. So
because he doesn't. Is he?
Not yet, but he's gonna be. He's not old enough yet. But so she kind of gave me that little remark, a little snide remark, and I said, "Yeah, he's keeping me from going postal on you." Of course, we were at the post office, and I thought it was funny. She didn't, but I was like, she was kind of a bitchy, so I gave it.
I thought that's hilarious.
That was good thinking, though, right?
That was awesome thinking. Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah. So that's that. So,
yeah. Well, because she didn't have on the service dog vest.
Yeah, I don't think dogs are probably
some people are just a-holes.
Yeah. I mean,
there's dogs everywhere now, and 90% of them aren't service dogs.
Right.
Get over it. Right. And he's so little. What's he going to do? Bite you?
Right.
I mean, he might. He is a champ.
Yeah.
He might. You should teach him. You should teach him to stick them or something. Like when people are assholes like that, where you just say a command and he'll just start barking and go nuts at him.
Right. No, he's already crazy, a little bit nutty sometimes anyway.
Well, he's a handsome little fella, and I'll see him on Tuesday too.
Yes, you will.
All right. Well, I appreciate the time. I didn't mean to keep you this long, but I appreciate it. Teach him to attack ankles. I mean, we can do that too. I appreciate your time. It's been truly an honor. I will see you next week, though.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me tonight on No Punches Pulled with No Mercy. I hope y'all enjoyed the show. Christy is amazing, amazing person, fighter, champion, all of the above. Please do subscribe, and share the episodes. Tell everybody about the show. Tell them they need to be here every Tuesday night and see who's going to be on the show every week. Spread the word. We need more people in here commenting. For those of you that commented today, I appreciate you so much. Thanks for asking your questions. Thanks for letting me know you're here. Everybody that didn't, I appreciate your presence just the same. There's a donate button down below if you guys would like to donate. It goes directly to me and my show. But yes, big shout out to Last Bell Boxing, Big Justin James, Tony Issue. I hope I didn't forget anybody. Michael, of course, for commenting. But thank you guys so much for being a part of the conversation. It makes it more fun that way. Also, though, follow me on social media. You can find me at, of course, No Punches Pulled with No Mercy. And then my second page is Brooke, No Mercy, Dierdorff-Millbrook. Follow those two pages. I always post prior to the show who's going to be on and give you a little description of who's going to be on each week. That way you always know who ahead of time who's going to be here. But then thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me tonight. I will see you all again. Same time, same place. Actually, I might not see you next Tuesday. I will post it. If I do, it might be a pre-recorded show because like I was just talking with Christy, she comes to Nashville once a month on Tuesday nights and puts on a fight show in Nashville. And I've been trying to go to those when she comes to town so I can see her and just support just support her boxing shows since I'm not very far from there. So I may have a pre-recorded show next week. But either way, if you follow my pages, I will let you know so you know if it's going to be pre-recorded or if I'm going to skip next week and then come back in the following week. But hopefully I'll see you all same time, same place next week. Every Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on No Punches Pulled with me, No Mercy. But remember, until then, punch hard because nothing else matters. Good night, guys.